USS Yorktown, CV-5, was an aircraft carrier that served in the United States Navy during World War II. Named after the Battle of Yorktown in 1781, she was commissioned in 1937. Yorktown was the lead ship of the Yorktown class, which was designed on the basis of lessons learned from operations with the converted battle cruisers of the Lexington class and the smaller purpose-built USS Ranger. Yorktown was at port in Norfolk during the attack on Pearl Harbor, having just completed a patrol of the Atlantic Ocean. She then sailed to San Diego in late December 1941 and was incorporated as the flagship of Task Force 17. Together with the carrier Lexington, she successfully attacked Japanese shipping off the east coast of New Guinea in early March 1942. Her aircraft sank or damaged several warships supporting the invasion of Tulagi in early May 1942. Yorktown rendezvoused with Lexington in the Coral Sea and attempted to stop the invasion of Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. They sank the light aircraft carrier Shoho on 7 May 1942 during the Battle of the Coral Sea, but did not encounter the main Japanese force of the carriers Shokaku and Zukaku until the next day. Aircraft from Lexington and Yorktown badly damaged Shokaku, but the Japanese aircraft critically damaged Lexington, which was later scuttled, and severely damaged Yorktown.
Despite the damage suffered, Yorktown was able to return to Hawaii. Although estimates were that the damage would take 2 weeks to repair, Yorktown put to sea only 72 hours after entering dry dock at Pearl Harbor, which meant that she was available for the next confrontation with the Japanese. Yorktown played an important part in the Battle of Midway in early June. Yorktown's aircraft played crucial roles in crippling 2 Japanese fleet carriers. Yorktown also absorbed both Japanese aerial counterattacks at Midway, which otherwise would have been directed at the carriers USS Enterprise and Hornet. On 4 June, during the battle, aircraft from the Japanese aircraft carrier Hiru crippled Yorktown after 2 attacks. She lost all power and developed a 23-degree list to port. Salvage efforts on Yorktown were encouraging, and she was taken in tow by USS Vireo. On 6 June, the Japanese submarine I-168 fired a salvo of torpedoes, 2 of which struck Yorktown, and a third sinking the destroyer USS Hammond, which had been providing auxiliary power to Yorktown. With further salvage efforts deemed hopeless, the remaining repair crews were evacuated from Yorktown, which sank on 7 June. The wreck of Yorktown was located by oceanographer Robert Ballard in 1998. Yorktown was laid down on 21 May 1934 at Newport News, Virginia, by the Newport News Shipbuilding and Drydock Company. Launched on 4 April 1936, sponsored by Eleanor Roosevelt, and commissioned at the Naval Station Norfolk, N.S. Norfolk, Norfolk, Virginia, on 30 September 1937, Captain Ernest D. McWhorter in command. After fitting out, the aircraft carrier trained in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and in the southern drill grounds off the Virginia Capes into January 1938, conducting carrier qualifications for her newly embarked air group. Yorktown sailed for the Caribbean on 8 January 1938 and arrived at Culebra, Puerto Rico on 13 January. Over the ensuing month, the carrier conducted her shakedown, touching at Charlotte Amalie, St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, Cayete, Haiti, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and Cristobal, Panama Canal Zone. Departing Colon Bay, Cristobal, on 1 March 1938, Yorktown sailed for Hampton Roads, arrived on 6 March, and put into the Norfolk Navy Yard the next day for post-shakedown availability. After undergoing repairs through the early autumn of 1938, Yorktown moved station from the Navy Yard to N.S. Norfolk on 17 October 1938 and soon headed for the southern drill grounds for training. Yorktown operated off the eastern seaboard, ranging from Chesapeake Bay to Guantanamo Bay, into 1939. As flagship for Carrier Division II,
She participated in her first war game, Fleet Problem 20, along with her sister ship Enterprise in February 1939. The scenario for the exercise called for one fleet to control the sea lanes in the Caribbean against the incursion of a foreign European power while maintaining sufficient naval strength to protect vital American interests in the Pacific.
The critique of the operation revealed that carrier operations, a part of the scenarios for the annual exercises since the entry of Langley into the war games in 1925, had achieved a new peak of efficiency. Despite the inexperience of Yorktown and Enterprise, comparative newcomers to the fleet, both carriers made significant contributions to the success of the problem. The planners had studied the employment of carriers and their embarked air groups in connection with convoy escort, anti-submarine defense, and various attack measures against surface ships and shore installations. In short, they worked to develop the tactics that would be used when war actually came.
Following Fleet Problem 20, Yorktown returned briefly to Hampton Roads before sailing for the Pacific on 20 April 1939. Transiting the Panama Canal a week later, Yorktown soon commenced a regular routine of operations with the Pacific Fleet. The Second World War started on 1 September 1939, but the USA was not yet involved. Operating out of San Diego into 1940, participated in Fleet Problem 21 that April. Yorktown was one of 6 ships to receive the new RCA CX-AM radar in 1940. At the same time, her signal bridge atop the tripod foremast was enclosed, and several 50-caliber machine guns were fitted in galleries along the edges of the flight deck. Fleet Problem 21, a 2-part exercise, included some of the operations that would characterize future warfare in the Pacific. The first part of the exercise was devoted to training in making plans and estimates, in screening and scouting, in coordination of combatant units, and in employing fleet and standard dispositions. The last pre-war exercise of its type, Fleet Problem 21 contained 2 exercises, comparatively minor at the time, where air operations played a major role. Fleet Joint Air Exercise 114A prophetically pointed out the need to coordinate Army and Navy defense plans for the Hawaiian Islands, and Fleet Exercise 114 proved that aircraft could be used for high-altitude tracking of surface forces, a significant role for planes that would be fully realized in the war to come.
With the retention of the fleet in Hawaiian waters after the conclusion of Fleet Problem 21, Yorktown operated in the Pacific off the west coast of the United States and in Hawaiian waters until the following spring, when the success of German U-boats preying upon British shipping in the Atlantic required a shift of American naval strength. Thus, to reinforce the U.S. Atlantic Fleet, the Navy transferred a substantial force from the Pacific, including Yorktown, Battleship Division 3, the New Mexico-class battleships, 3 light cruisers, and 12 accompanying destroyers, bracket 5.
Yorktown departed Pearl Harbor on 20 April 1941 in company with destroyers Warrington, Somers, and Jewett, headed southeast, transited the Panama Canal on the night of 6-7 May, and arrived at Bermuda on 12 May. From that time until the United States entered the war, Yorktown conducted 4 patrols in the Atlantic, ranging from Newfoundland to Bermuda, and logging 17,642 miles, or 28,392 kilometers, steamed while enforcing American neutrality. Although Adolf Hitler had forbidden his submarines to attack American ships, the men who manned the American naval vessels were not aware of this policy and operated on a wartime footing in the Atlantic. On 28 October, while Yorktown, the battleship New Mexico, and other American warships were screening a convoy, a destroyer picked up a submarine contact and dropped depth charges while the convoy itself made an emergency starboard turn, the first of the convoy's 3 emergency changes of course. Late that afternoon, engine repairs to one of the ships in the convoy, Empire Pintail, reduced the convoy's speed to 11 knots, 13 miles per hour, or 20 kilometers per hour.
During the night, the American ships intercepted strong German radio signals, indicating submarines probably in the vicinity reporting the group. Rear Admiral H. Kent Hewitt, commanding the escort force, sent a destroyer to sweep astern of the convoy to destroy the U-boat or at least to drive him under. The next day, while cruiser scout planes patrolled overhead, Yorktown and the cruiser Savannah fueled their escorting destroyers, finishing the task as dusk fell. On 30 October, Yorktown was preparing to fuel 3 destroyers when other escorts made sound contacts. The convoy subsequently made 10 emergency turns, while the destroyers Morris and Anderson dropped depth charges, with Hughes assisted in developing the contact. Anderson later made 2 more depth charge attacks, noticing considerable oil with slick spreading but no wreckage. The short-of-war period was becoming more like the real thing as each day went on. Elsewhere on 30 October, U-552 torpedoed the destroyer Reuben James, sinking her with a heavy loss of life, the first loss of an American warship in World War II. After another neutrality patrol stint in November, Yorktown put into Norfolk on 2 December.
On the early morning of 7 December 1941, Japanese warplanes attacked the U.S. base at Pearl Harbor without warning, damaging or sinking 16 U.S. warships. With the battle line crippled, the undamaged American carriers assumed great importance. There were, on 7 December, only 3 in the Pacific: Enterprise, Lexington, and Saratoga. Yorktown, Ranger, Wasp, and the recently commissioned Hornet were in the Atlantic. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor resulted in massive outrage across the United States and led to the country's formal entry into World War II the next day. Yorktown departed Norfolk on 16 December for the Pacific, her secondary gun galleries studded with new Oerlikon 20mm guns. The ship's gunnery officer retained the Browning M2 50 caliber machine guns the Oerlikons replaced and acquired a supply of M1919A4 30 caliber machine guns as well. The crew discovered the pintle mounts of the 30 calibers fitted neatly into cut swab handles, and the swab handles themselves fitted neatly into the hollow pipes used for the ship's safety lines. Dozens of sailors went into the unofficial anti-aircraft gun business, and according to one report, Yorktown bristled with more guns than a Mexican Revolution movie. She reached San Diego 30th December 1941 and soon became flagship for Rear Admiral Frank Fletcher's newly formed Task Force 17, or TF-17. The carrier's first mission in her new theater was to escort a convoy carrying Marine reinforcements to American Samoa. Departing San Diego on 6 January 1942, Yorktown and her consorts covered the movement of Marines to Paco Paco in Tutuila to augment the garrison already there. Having safely covered that troop movement, Yorktown, in company with sister ship Enterprise, departed Samoan waters on 25 January. 6 days later, Task Force 8, built around Enterprise, and Task Force 17, around Yorktown, parted company. The former headed for the Marshall Islands, the latter for the Gilberts, each to take part in some of the first American offensives of the war, the Marshall's-Gilberts raids.